Hi, everybody, and thank you for joining us. I am Nick Scheist, and you may remember me from the Scheist Podcast and Bad Movies We Love.
And I'm Seth Vargas of the Movie Friends Podcast.
And we decided to join forces, a team-up, if you will, because X-Men 97 was so good, we just couldn't help ourselves.
That's right. So join us as we discuss our personal history with the comics, the films, and the collectible trading cards of the X-Men universe.
And, of course, the catalyst for it all, X-Men 97. To me, my ex-friends. Okay, so yes, episode 6, we jump into space. Like straight into space. And so for people that didn't watch the end of the original run of the cartoon, this is actually what happens, is that Charles is sort of rescued by Lilandra and taken into Shi'ar space to hopefully use their technology to bring him back after Gyrick like hit him with the mind wipe device or whatever the hell it was at the end of that series. So this notion that Charles is gone is precarious in that the X-Men are operating as if he's dead. You know, they've read his will to the point where Magneto has now inherited everything from Charles. So we're operating under the guise of Charles being dead. Meanwhile, he's not actually dead, which all of the X-Men actually knew, but just sort of like kept from us until we needed to see it in this episode. And then we're introduced to the Shi'ar and sort of we're reintroduced to the Kree, and we see Ronan, and it's nice to see Gladiator and Deathbird and some of these other characters in the Shi'ar. And, you know, we're back to politicking because this is it's an interesting like dark mirror for what we've seen so far, in that there's a relationship between humankind and mutantdom that is very divided. And there's people in the middle that want to like help both sides and have them coexist. There's people on one side that are like all pro mutant. There's people on other sides that are all pro human. And now it's like, okay, we're off planet, we're in space, and here we are again. And Charles is the de facto human. Like they refer to him as a Terran as a derogatory term.
Yes.
When he's there. So it's like, even in the context of mutant superiority that we've sort of gotten from Magneto and that humanity fears, in the galactic eye, mutants are still humans, basically. And it's interesting because Magneto, in that UN episode where he rips them all up into the stratosphere, he tells them, like, I was reminded to observe this view of Earth because it is a shared coexistence. And so there's a lot more in common between mutants and humans than either side is really willing to acknowledge for the vast majority of the time. And so now we're seeing that paralleled here in the Shi'ar story, where the Shi'ar are basically the mutants, Charles is the human, and you have this council of otherworldly beings saying that like this marriage is an abomination. Charles is disgusting. They call Earth like the Milky Way ghetto. They definitely don't want, which, I mean, look, that's fair. If I were desperate, I would be like, I don't want to go to that backwater planet where all they do is kill each other. It's stupid.
If you look at just the natural world apart from sci-fi, yes, we are kind of in a strange place in the Milky Way. Yeah.
Yeah. And I love just the framing of it in that, like, they look down on us so much that it really has to like force Charles, who's one of the more powerful mutants, who's one of the leaders of their cause, in not just like, he's not really invested in mutant superiority, but he is pro mutant in that, like, he wants his people to thrive and succeed, and understands that that's going to come with some rocky territory along the way in trying to convince people that it's all right. And so now he's going through basically the same thing again in reverse, in trying to navigate the Shi'ar. And well, especially for a guy like Charles who's bald, to deal with this race of people with this hair is got to be terrifying.
This is a great example of what I said last episode, which was, this is the medium for this type of storytelling. If you bring the Shi'ar into a physical world, they are not going to look like this. Like, they're just not. You're going to totally change their whole bird metal people who are also like quite tall, and No, it looks so. It would look so bad in real life, and here it's allowed to look however it looks because it's just a cartoon. It doesn't really matter. So I had mentioned to you at the very top that I finally decided that I had a least favorite episode of the season, and this is it by far. Almost nothing here works for me.
Interesting.
Storm going out to find the magic mushrooms.
That's a great episode, by the way, if they did that.
Charles like doing the bird people thing.
I did get a lot of bird person from the Shi'ar in this for some reason.
Yeah, like Shakespeare marriages of political purpose, but also love, but also maybe not, but also, I got to get back to my kids. Like, yeah, I was just so bored. Like, and not that I was like, oh, like none of this means anything, because it does. But at this point, I'm like, okay, now we're kind of in the end game of Storm getting her powers back. We're in the end game of finally bringing Charles back to Earth. So I just, I unfortunately did not really enjoy this episode. And like we talked about, it's like every episode is just this huge idea. If you are not following along with the comics and you watch this episode where Gambit dies and everything has been on Earth and you have no reason to think that the next episode will not be on Earth. Well, now here we come in with 6 to 7 all new characters that you've never heard of before. And it's like, well, you're here with these guys now. Good luck.
Yeah, it's a really hard shift because had I not went back and like watched the end of the original series, I wouldn't have remembered that this is where we were. I would have just been like, okay, Charles is dead or whatever. And like, oh. So, I mean, I guess for that audience, it's like, hey, surprise. Charles has been alive this whole time. He's hanging out with Lilandra, who you don't know, and her sister, also who you don't know, and all of these people with their weird hair, which you also don't know. It's very space opera heavy in that way. And when you said that episode 4 was not the one that was your least favorite, I mean, I deduced that it was gonna be episode 6. And I was like, if 5 is your least favorite, I was like, we're gonna have to have a conversation.
No, 5 is great.
Yeah, exactly. 5 is amazing. So I don't think it's 5. It has to be 6. And we get some weird stuff here in that Charles is so connected to his X-Men, right? They call him his children. He talks how much he loves them, and he's trying to sort of go through the motions of this relationship with Lilandra, where he's actually willing to sort of wipe his memory up until the moment that he's just like, you know what? No, never mind. I actually do love my X-Men more than I love this bullshit. So I need to go home. Yeah, exactly. And I think it's nice to see Charles as a person removed from the X-Men, though, in that Charles was and is an interesting character regardless of the X-Men. But this episode, like for the other ones, I have maybe like 15 to 20 sort of bullet pointed items where I'm like, this is something I want to make sure I note. On this, it was like 1, 2, 3, 4. And then here's like stream of consciousness, because I'm not really thinking about the episode as much as I'm thinking about the larger context of who Charles is to the X-Men, what that means to the world, philosophy of Charles versus Magneto. Like my mind is wandering a little bit here at the end.
Yeah, I can show you for proof. These are my notes for the first 2 episodes, and then we get to episode 6, and it simply says, "We are now on an alien planet in space amidst the battle, the Shi'ar versus the Kree. The Empress has married Charles Xavier. The sister wants to purge all of Charles's memories from him. The classroom, Forge and Storm go for the magic mushroom. Forge can use magic. Wow."
He can. Yeah. He's like, by the way,
that's my notes for this episode.
By the way, I've been training in the mystical arts. And so,
which is fine. I don't think it's plot armor or anything. It's just like, oh, cool.
It's convenient because there's a magical demon here.
Yeah,
and
it's interesting. We're exploring the magical demon kind of hell, whatever, with the guy who's like all about technology. Like that's kind of an interesting, choice. But
they shoehorned it in there because he's Native American and his grandma has some desert magic, and somewhere in this cave there's a cactus, aka like peyote, I'm assuming, that grows in the dark that will heal my wounds. So let's go make that happen. But up in space, the things that I take away from it are like Charles is obviously not ready to let go of the X-Men, despite him trying to communicate that he is. And they still got pretty close to letting Lilandra like wipe his mind and erase all of that. But at the end of the day, he's like, I love Magneto and I love my kids and I want to get back to them. And stripping all of this is asking too much.
Wouldn't they be like more? Are they more powerful than Charles? Like to wipe his mind.
Lilandra is of equal capabilities.
Okay. Because I was like, that seems like a large task to wipe the mind of Charles Xavier. I don't know that you can do that.
Yeah, it would take somebody on Lilandra's level. I mean, there's maybe like one or two psychics in the Marvel universe that are on Charles's level. She happens to be one of them, which is why they have the connection that they do. But, Charles has always had like Moira as well. Sure. In the background. So he's torn between, I think, his human side and his sympathy for humanity, and he's torn between his mutant side and his desire to see his people thrive and like not be persecuted. So Charles gets to be an interesting character in that way. One of my favorite things about this is learning that Charles has a domination kink, though, which makes sense with Lilandra. She like jokes with him. It's like, oh, that's like basically just like putting a leash on me. And he's like, well, we can do that. And she's like, well, not here, Charles. Shh.
It's wild. It's quite wild.
Hey, look, Charles is not above his sexual based desires. So I don't fault him for that. But it shows that he is like probably way more human than the story context has given us to that point, because it's been very much mutant kind, humankind.
Well, I love the idea of Charles, the man from Earth, exploring. Like how exciting that would be to like be in a totally different galaxy and you're exploring, you're learning, you're in a relationship with someone who's on your level. There's all this new stuff. I love that idea. It's just the execution here. I was just not. So I think like how I should have felt about Mojo World is how I felt about the Shi'ar world. I was like, what are we doing? Like, let's get me out of here. Like these people, they've got like colonial wigs, but they're made of metal. Like
I know when they took the helmet off, I was like, that can't be like her actual hair shape under there, right? I was like, oh no, I was wrong. Her hair is stuck in that position. But yeah, I think there's a reason why Charles has not really been a solo property that gets explored very often, because while he's interesting, he's significantly less interesting as just a guy. He's always paired with Magneto. He's always paired with the X-Men because of his sort of philosophical compass, right? And what we do get here is Charles actually showing the Shi'ar, like, he's like, why am I pretending like I'm this weakling in your eyes? He's like, listen up, everybody. Okay, we're in my mind now. And shut the fuck up and listen to me, because I'm more powerful than any of you anyway. So we get that moment where he puts them in the classroom, and that's great because it really does show off how capable he is when he wants to be, and that when he doesn't hold back. And I love that he approaches the Shi'ar with just the fallacies of their logic. And he actually is like, he explains like part of why he loves being a teacher. And so we get him sort of with all the main players here that don't understand what's going on, but he is controlling their mind. And that's a very, very powerful thing to do. And to have him sort of spell out their history, in that what we don't see is that they're at war with the Kree. And then the Kree has been at war with the Skrull and many other entities in space for a long time. But the Kree is also sort of like a pillaging community that takes from other cultures. And so Charles is explaining that, hey, these other cultures that you deem unworthy are ones that you have crippled and then offered a hand to help as long as you assimilate. So he's fully aware of like their history as the Shi'ar, because he's like, yeah, you brought me here. I've been doing nothing but reading your history and I've seen it. Like, so don't bullshit me about, oh, I'm this backwater earthling, right? Like, given enough time and help, like we might even rival your empire. So let's not pretend here, okay? And I think what he says that gets to me is coexistence is messy. And this idea that we must pillage worth from one another. For me to be more, you need to be less. Your existence against mine. That is the core of Charles' philosophy right there. And I think it just got me thinking about like who Charles is given the story that we've seen to this point, right? Because we're like on the Magneto side of the curve, where at the end of the previous episode, if the mutants were like, well, it's time to go to war with the humans, we'd be like, I understand. Right.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And so we need Charles as ballast to remind us of like where the X-Men started, why they started, what Charles believes in, and just how charismatic and compelling Charles is as a public speaker to get people to believe in his cause. And that's why, like, I was talking about Nightcrawler a lot in the discussion of the previous episode. And I said his idealism, it does confuse people. And that's sort of like this. It's a very political thing to do, right? Like, oh, well, like you're right, but like your idealism is like, it's going to make people confused. So we can't really lean into it. And it's like, that's a bullshit answer from this like Shi'ar High Council person. And I just love seeing Charles like be Charles again, because it had been a while since we had seen it. And it's something that like Patrick Stewart was very good at when he was at the height of his Charles acting career. It's something that McAvoy was also very good at, was tapping into like this person that really believes in this thing, their idea so devoutly that it gets other people to follow them. And what this made me do was just start to think about like, are you more of a like Charles person? You strike me as an Xavier type, right? And I'm like, okay, does that make me like a Magneto type of character where like Magneto is very much like, I'm willing to try Charles's way. I believe in it for the sake of Charles. But as soon as it is proven to be not the case, I'm going to go Magneto again. And I love that, because talking about Scott and what's going on with him and him being one of Charles' first students, and that he sort of becomes Magneto. Like that's Scott's curve, is that his relationship with Xavier deteriorates over the years because Charles's idealism is not bulletproof, and having it proven wrong and trying to constantly just, we're going to take it on the chin and move forward over and over again. And this is the way forward, and never being like, no, mutants come first and we're putting our foot down. And so Magneto is very much willing to do that. And I think, this part of the story where Charles is gone probably is the first crack in the Cyclops armor before he starts his dark side journey, where he becomes the villain, is possessed by the Phoenix Force at one point, and basically like he kills a bunch of people in that story. But that's way down the line from this in 97. But it's interesting to see just like the philosophical seeds being laid for like how these different characters can turn out. And somebody who was so, if Charles is a cult leader, like Scott was the first student, he's more into that ideology than anybody else. And to have that like be taken from him turns him sort of into the bad guy that he becomes down the line. But yeah, I just started thinking of like Charles's philosophy, and like, if this like were real, is Charles the kind of leader like you want to get behind? Like, do you sort of look at what Magneto's doing and being like, well, Magneto's really like about our people first? Like, it's very complicated and realistic as well.
Oh, absolutely. And I do think that Charles is a cult leader. Like,
fair enough.
I don't really have a problem with that, because this is a fictional property, but literally traveling the country, finding youth to bring to his, we call it a school. You would call it a compound if you were talking about him in cult-like terms.
It is a compound.
And then training them, and also like sharing his philosophy with them. And if you don't kind of fit in. It's not that he'll kick you out, because Charles is always trying to redeem everyone all the time, but you kind of go on and join, the Brotherhood of Mutants, and that's just a different cult. And so yeah, it's at least like a cult of personality, philosophy that you have to get under. And it's just that he's doing it for the reasons that we currently agree with, that are good, right? We agree that all of these ideas are good. So yeah, I mean, that he doesn't just manipulate everyone with his mind powers,
which he shows that he can very easily do whenever he wants.
Oh man, hold on. I'm gonna text from work.
My brother-in-law coincidentally just texted me right now saying, "You were right. X-Men 97 was great." Yes, Jeff, it was.
I just got a text that one of the units at work might be down.
Unit being pizza oven?
Like a refrigeration unit.
Ah, gotcha. And are you capable of fixing that, or you're just responsible for it?
I'm just responsible. I'll check it in the morning. Call someone. It isn't.
See you in the AM, my man.
Back to temp. Ay. Okay. All right.
Philosophy. Charles sort of puts his ideology back out there. It's like it's a necessary, I think, reminder for where we're at in the show, to hear it from Charles's mouth too, not just his students. And what I love about the show is that when Charles speaks in this moment and he's explaining his perspective, I'm like, I agree with Charles. And then when I hear Magneto talk and he explains his perspective, I'm like, I agree with Magneto. When I hear Scott talk and he's fucking pissed and he's like, I shouldn't have to answer these stupid questions about whether or not I'm a person, I'm like, I agree with Scott, except for the gaslighting of Jean. But yeah. So it's like when they have these moments for the characters to really like explain where they're coming from as individuals and like their system of beliefs, I think all of them have substance and have traction. And I can't necessarily be like, oh, he's right, he's wrong, he's wrong. I'm like, no, they all have a point. And that's something that is very difficult to do. I think, especially if you were doing this like as a live action type of thing, it would be much harder to communicate effectively all these points as having substance.
Yeah. Definitely. Yeah, they're getting a lot in. And again, they're not taking an hour to do it each episode. It's amazing.
Yeah, it's surprisingly well structured in that way. And then we also like, hey, screw Charles in Shi'ar space. We do get Storm and her magic mushrooms in the cave. And I don't even know, they never see her like eating them. She just rubs it. She doesn't do anything with it. She puts it on Forge's wound. It instantly heals. And then it's like, oh, it looks like you are healing. It's like, no, that's past tense. Like he is healed already. And then stupid bird, you're gone. I got my powers back. And we get the black suit Storm that just materializes out of the atmosphere, which is weird, but I'm on board with it. Like she made it out of particles.
Yep.
Because she's a weather witch. That's what she does.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so like Storm being arguably the most powerful mutant on the show, yeah, I'm comfortable with that. I know the episode 5 was the one where they said that Magneto was Omega level. Yeah. So yeah, maybe, but I know Storm is for sure. I would have to like see if they retcon that for Magneto, but it was always like he was like right below that. And so having Storm, one of your most powerful characters, back, like as you're going to go into sort of the final swing here for the show, you definitely need that. And she gets a great moment where, she's inside the mountain and she's beginning to get her powers back as the bird is like crawling up her cave tunnel, whatever she's in. Like, for someone like Storm to be claustrophobic, it's also a very interesting sort of character mechanism to be like this powerful entity that like commands the sky and the weather and the temperature. Is like, oh, don't put her in the closet because that's too much for her. But everybody's got to have some weakness, and it's like a very tangible one. Like claustrophobia is very real, so I like that it humanizes her in that way, but also it's something that she can easily access to overcome when she needs to in order to sort of realize that she's had the power in her the whole time. But I am now curious, spilling out of that, like what the depowering technology is going to mean to the storyline, because the stakes are not as high now. Like if
Right.
if you take out Storm and now it's like, oh, can't get hit with that pink laser anymore or you're done. Now, okay, is Storm, because she's Omega level, capable of regenerating her powers? Did Forge's machine work? But it had a little bit of like time release capsule
Right.
element to it. Was this all psychological for her in the first place? Like, there's a lot of questions that get raised by her recovery, but it does sort of give us Charles coming back and Storm coming back when they are needed the most, and they get to have like that heroic return in that way. So I'm okay with it.
Yeah, and it's like I think the idea is like, oh, face your fears and you'll fix, you know, everything will be fixed. And so I think it's like a little bit of maybe the machine worked. And we know that mutants kind of come into their powers through usually like a stressful or traumatic thing. And so maybe she just needed another one of those for it to kind of kick back in. I'm not sure, but yeah.
Yeah, well, that's the wrap on episode 6. But as I was stuck in traffic today, I was thinking, I want to ask Seth who his favorite X-Men is. You can extend it beyond the show, but if you just want to do it for the context of who that we've seen on screen is your favorite so far, or maybe someone that you most closely relate to as a character.
Yeah, so I would say Nightcrawler is my favorite power, and that's like the power that I would want to have. And then my favorite X-Men is probably Jean Grey. She's not Charles in that she's so heady and philosophical, and she has had a lot of struggles with her own power and the Phoenix Force. And I love Jean Grey. I think she's great.
Yeah, Jean's awesome. And like when her character is written well, she's super interesting. I think it became very easy to sort of dismiss her as like, oh, she's just the vehicle for the Phoenix. And that's like a huge story arc in the X-Men. And sort of what spills out of that is what that means to all the other characters. But she's a very interesting character too. And she, I think, reiterates in this show, like, I was Charles' first student. It wasn't Scott. It was me. And so she actually is the most direct descendant of Charles' teachings in that way. And I like that she's being explored a little bit more here. In this show, I would probably say Magneto is my favorite. Cyclops is typically my favorite X-Man, but in the context of this show, Magneto is my favorite because he's the terrorist leader of the X-Men now. And I like that he's kind of like petty, the whole Brimstone clone line, and then sort of like teasing Gambit for not trusting his relationship with Rogue, knowing full well that he's sleeping with Rogue. Like he's just, he's got like a pettiness to him that I really enjoy his on-screen presence. Granted, the show is very much written around Magneto's ascension to leader of the X-Men. And aside from that, I don't know. We're not getting a lot of Wolverine, which is interesting because he was so prominent. And I like that because it's like you're not just relying on the property that the movies sort of like banked on time and time again, which Deadpool is banking on again in about a month from now. So I like that they're not doing that. And it's not like it's not like Scott has been an uninteresting character in this story arc. Cyclops is still like the leader of the X-Men. He's still going through a lot of shit. Like, so a lot of the reasons why I like Scott are still very present. I think I feel for Madeline the most because she didn't ask to be made. And then her entire life is stripped from her. But because it's just, hey, these are my memories too. It's not like the sort of realization of like, oh yeah, I'm a clone. I guess I can let that go. That's not going to happen in her case because she still has those memories of being Jean Grey. So she essentially is Jean Grey, but she has to come to terms with the fact that, she's got to let go of Scott. Nathan's in the future. The other Jean, not friendly. And the rest of the X-Men are not really on her side either. So like her life is torn from her in a way that really I think justifies her flipping out. I think she flipped out too fast when she's like, I'm the Goblin Queen. She didn't give any time, no breathing room before she went crazy. But yeah, Madeline's pretty interesting, and it's sad to see that she died in episode 5. So
yeah, absolutely. But, no more dates on the astral plane, I guess.
Yeah, well, I mean, it depends. Like, if this is the kind of universe where it's like once you die, like you only exist on the astral plane, then maybe Scott is going to be calling like 1-800-Madeline again, and
right,
we'll see. I don't think it happens the rest of the season, but I've only watched them once, so maybe going into 7, 8, and 9, we'll see a little bit more of it. But yeah, she's a great character. She had a great run in the recent series as well too, and she's actually, last I saw, was dating Scott's brother. So.
Nice.
Yeah, big old soap opera nonsense. Yeah, Scott's brother's not even in the show yet, so it's like his existence I don't think has been spoken of. Like the fact that Scott's got a dad who also is very much in touch with the Shi'ar, if I'm not mistaken. He's got a couple of brothers, and that's one of the main catalysts for his dissolution with Xavier in the future was some of that family drama. It's like, I don't know why that was the point where it's like, this is too much, but everyone has a breaking point, and Scott just like, enough of the bullshit.
Yeah.
Villain time. He's got a great villain arc though, so it's fun to watch. All right. Well, I think we're done then.
All right. Very cool. 3 more down.
3 more down. 4 to go.
Are you there?
I'm here. Yeah. You froze. Can you hear me?
Hello?
Hello. Yeah, I'm here.
You froze.
You froze.
I don't know if you can hear me right now.
I can. Let me see if the chat works. Good thing we got to the end of the episode.
I feel like this happened last time.
Did it? I'm going to text you right now. Let me see.
Are you there?
Uh-huh.
You can hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. You froze. Oh, wait. You're back.
We're back.
Okay. I feel like that happened last episode when we got towards the end. One of us froze too. That's real weird. But anyway.
The mutants are interfering.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, all right. Well, yeah, we got 3 more in the bank. 3 more in the next episode. We'll do 7, 8, and 9. And then it's episode 10, finale episode. We'll talk about the future of the X-Men, what we want to see, what we don't want to see, what we fear might happen.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Sounds good.
Very exciting. Hey, thanks a lot. This was cool. Good 3 episodes, crazy 3 episodes. And now we're moving into one story.
Yeah, we're in the end game now. You know, that's funny. Like the first time I watched the season all the way through, I felt like every episode was so individualized, and there wasn't any communication of like time span between episodes. And now watching it again, I'm like, they're more connected than I gave it credit for the first time, but they are still sort of self-contained, where if like you just jumped in on this one, I think any of those first 3 are good enough to where like, oh, I want to see more of this. And then they also showed like different styles where it's like, hey, here's horror, here's kind of like sci-fi, here's basic sort of X-Men stuff. So we're going to cover all our bases and make sure that we make people happy.
Yeah, absolutely. Very exciting.
Exciting times. Well, thanks for listening, everybody. We'll catch you on the next one. Thank you for checking out the show and becoming an X-Friend. Hopefully, you'll join us on our journey through X-Men 97 and beyond. X-Friends is a Movie Friends and Bad Movies We Love co-production and part of the Scheist Podcast Network, hosted by Seth Vargas and Nick Scheist. You can find our contact info and socials in the show notes, and you can email the show directly at xfriends@thescheist.com. That's the letter X, friends@thescheist.com. So until next time, most people will never know anything beyond what they see with their own 2 eyes.